Hi y'all, welcome back to my shop for another Four Ways collaboration video. Sam Angelo picked out the topic for this month's video, and his no constraints is turn your favorite wood turning. So one of my favorites, I got lots of them. It's like your children, which one do you love best? But I like turning Christmas tree ornaments, and today so we're going to turn these cute little gonks. Some people call them elves, some people call them gnomes, some people call them Nordic nissies. But I want to show you how to turn a basic one and how to do variations on it. So if that's something you're interested in, keep watching. All right, we're going to start off with a blank about 4 1/4 by 2 inches, or 106 millimeters by 50. Mark centers. I'm using a stem center. If you want to know why, watch this video that I've got linked on above. And we're just going to mount that in there. Then I grab this, turn the hand wheel, make sure it's nice and snug. Alright, so I'm going to turn about 2,000. You can use a spindle roughing gouge, or in this case I'm going to happen to be using a 5/8 inch spindle gouge. I made a little template for my Record Power SC2 with the spindle, the tenon size and the recess size, and I like to get used to a relative reference, and turns out with my original Powermatic Live Center, that's just about the perfect size. If I can get a small pencil in here like this, that'll be pretty close to 40 millimeter. I picked this size because this had a little bit of damage on it, and it's going to be waste. This side I've got very little damage, but it's going to maybe the top of a hat, so I want to not have to deal much with that. So let's go ahead and take our beading and parting tool and go ahead and take that down to a tenon. Does not have to be a long tenon. Make the tenon suitable for your particular chuck. I'm just going to eyeball it and align it with this. It'll get me pretty close. Now I'm doing a one-piece gonk, and I'll show you how to do two-piece gonks, and you'll use shorter pieces of wood. So here's where we're going with this. You know, we've got it chucked up, we got a tenon on it. We're going to basically turn something like this. After you've turned your first one or two, I guarantee you will be turning more, so I think it's worthwhile to make a storyboard that gives you the dimensions of the wood. Makes it easy. Different size hats, maybe a top hat, maybe a pointed hat. I've got a little storyboard to help me cut out the beard. So that'll speed up your production. There are no magic proportions. It's whatever design you want to come up with. I'm going to use my storyboard, and we're going to take it down there. This will be the main line I'm going to cut right here. I'm going to come down with a parting tool here, and I'm going to come down maybe 1/4 of an inch. Now, since I'm going to hog off a lot of wood, I'm just going to go ahead and use spindle roughing gouge because it removes wood quickly. Now, some folks do variations of this type of project, and rather than, I'm going to turn a knob on the top of the hat, but you could also, you know, turn your separate knob out of a contrasting piece of wood. If so, just drill a little hole, appropriate size holes. I'm going to switch to a spindle gouge. I'm going to make a pretty big knob here. Now, if I'm doing an ornament, a little damage there, not going to make a difference if you use a screw eye. If you're not making an ornament and you're not going to put a screw eye in it, you probably want to remove any tailstock divot you left. I could have done without the live center support on this. I'm turning fast. Just don't get too aggressive because you can't wedge it out of bring it out of the chuck. And we're just going to take just a little bit of that sharp edge off, but to do that I can get easier to get to it once I remove some of this. So we're going to remove some of this down to where I parted it down. The main thing is your hat has to have some overhang because you got to get a piece of faux fur underneath there and have it completely hid. Whoa, lost the double support. Okay, I'm just going to round over that with a little bit of a scrape. And that's good. Again, we sand all that. So, next thing we're going to do is we're going to drill a hole and pick out the grain that you think will make a difference. It's going to be covered with fur, but if it makes a difference on showing on the back, figure out whether you want grain running this way or whether you want it flat. Usually it really doesn't make a whole lot of difference. The thing that you do have to keep in mind though is you have to have room for that nose to clear underneath here. So keep that in mind when you mark your spot for drilling. We'll take an awl and mark where we're going to drill that hole. Doesn't make a lot of difference what size hole you drill. Just drill one that you feel comfortable with for making a peg. I think 3/16 is a pretty good size. 1/4 inch, 3/16, whatever you feel is a good size. Line it straight, perpendicular. Put this on drill instead of screwdriver mode. I find it safer to drill deeper because if I make a long peg I don't want the bottom out, so just don't drill through it. After you turn one of these and you make you a storyboard, you'll find there's ways you can refine your storyboard. You can get your knob a little better set. Your hole, you put this mark here and then you got a little notch to mark where you're going to drill instead of kind of fumbling around the way I did. So I've got where I'm going to actually shape the bottom and part it off. So I've got that marked. Again, nothing magic about proportions. This is about 1 3/4 inches. Okay, so let's go ahead and part that off. Part it down anyway, so I can see where I'm heading with this. Let's get these tools off the lathe bed. Any wood will do for this kind of project. Heck, you can even use pine if you like. And now we're going to just kind of round it over down at the bottom. I want to just round over that edge just a little bit to the bottom. And I want this to be a little more tapered here. smooth flow where the beard's going to lay against it. Sand it all up, and then we'll part it off. That's a nice grained figure here. I think I'm going to put a little dye on here to give it a little bit of color. And I think I'm going to use some kind of red. Make this kind of a Christmas gnome. See how that looks? Yeah, it's not too bad. I like this ChromaCraft dye because it's pre-mixed alcohol base with a 10% shellac in it, so it dries real fast and shows the grain. Okay, I just thought I'd go ahead and put some white acrylic on that little bobbin, so let's see how that goes. I think I'm going to have to let that dry and come back with another coat. Looks like it's absorbing some of that dye. So let's just let it dry and I'll come back. And I do the body in some type of friction, shellac based friction finish while it's on the lathe because it's fast and easy. These don't get a lot of handling, so this works great. Put it on by hand. Get a nice even coat. Put some up underneath there. Gnomes come in all shapes and sizes with different kinds of hats, so don't be afraid to experiment. And most any kind of wood. This little guy's made out of all pine, and one piece, you turn this cone shape, cut it at an appropriate angle, and re-glue it. So that's an example. You can make hats separately. You can make them strange looking, multi-axis, like this one. You can make a witch's hat. If you're making a two-piece, what I like to do is I like to use a screw chuck to turn the little scrap of wood for the hat. That leaves a small hole. So when you turn the base, just turn a tiny little spigot that'll help you match the things up to for gluing up. And part it off with a thin parting tool. Go. And just do a little sand to get rid of the little nub at the bottom. Maybe put some more finish on the bottom. Alright, it's time to turn a nose. My original ones, the noses were too small. They might have been, 3/8 of an inch. 5/16, but in this case, bigger is better. You want these noses, I think, to be bulbous, but make them the way you want. But this is what we're going to turn. So chuck up a square of wood, 5/8 inch, 3/4, whatever. But you do want to make this about a 1/2 inch. So round it off. I like to turn the nose out because it's easier to sand for me. You may prefer to do it the other way. Get it round. That's a little pointy. We'll sand that into submission. This is a small item, so turn fast. 2,000 plus. I I'd sand it before you get this too small. You can finish it on the lathe. Now, I would take this thing down with a, parting tool a little bit, and to know how to measure it, you're going to match your hole. I use a 3/16, so just take your vernier calipers, calibrate against the 3/16, and then you can use that to check it. Make it a slight taper so it'll definitely wedge in there. If it sticks out a little bit, it's going to be fine because the fur is going to take care of that. Almost. I'm going to finish sanding it and then again with a friction polish. Make this a little bit smaller. Then taper it. And then part it off. Crap. Here's a cute hat, a cowboy hat. Just cut you out a circle of thin leather. Turn your hat slightly tapered. Belt sander or spindle sander. Maybe put a little groove in it. Make little tenons so you can get it to fit. And we're going to glue that on with a little CA glue. The top hat's made from a piece of cherry burl. The cherry burl scrap makes just a beautiful hat. You can get this fur faux from any place, just about. You can get fabric. You don't need to get a full yard, just get a small amount. Or you can go on Amazon and frequently buy little remnant bags with a whole bunch of choices of colors. It's made for some kind of funky items. Be very careful when you're cutting it, in that you don't want to snip off, the fur near the bottom. Here's my little storyboard for cutting it. Doesn't need to be very big for most of these, unless you want a full body wrap style like this one. Another trick is, once you get this assembled, you can use a toothbrush as a comb and straighten out a lot of the fur tangles or get sawdust out of it. You can also do some pretty funky things with mustaches by twisting it. Maybe put a little wax in it to accomplish that. And then one of the other fun things to do is make you a creative design with handles or hands. A little stick coming in at 90 degrees, a little rounded knob here. Hold real through it, and you could hold a fishing pole or a staff or a guitar, depending on how you shape it and what your little gonk is doing. There's different techniques for putting these things together. It's funny, with my first video, I've got 15 million people tell me I need to go out and buy a leather punch to punch a hole here, but one viewer is very astute, and he said, just cut you a little notch for the nose to go through, and I find that worked very well for me at minimum cost. And the other technique that I found, some people cut a slot through here, a little V. For me, I found it worked better if I worked the little hole through it and then use that. I need to cut a little deeper, little slot here. And then if I use the nose to really help hold this thing in place when I'm gluing the rest of it. Now, you'll have to see what kind of glue works best for you. Some folks use CA glue. I found that to be a mess. Some folks use Eileen's tacky glue, which is what I'm using.
Some folks use hot glue. You just have to see what works for you. So let's get some alines. You can get this at the dollar store sometimes. So what I'm going to do is put just a little bit right here. I prefer this to CA glue whenever it works for me. Okay, so I just put this through the hole like that, and then it helps peg it in place, so I can then glue the rest of it. Now I'm going to go ahead and put just a little bit of glue here. The CA glue, if you're not careful, it'll come right on through, and you'll have a real mess on your hands. So I just come in here and line that up with the hole. Push the nose on there, nice and firm. It kind of helps hold it in place. And then you can start maneuvering this up under the brim of your hat. And then you can add additional glue as you need it. A little bit here. Oh, that's what happens. You get glue. If you're not careful, you get it everywhere. Get it in your hair. Okay. And then rubber bands can really help hold these in place while it dries, if you're not using an instant glue. We'll let this guy dry, and we'll come back later. This plumber's reamer comes in real handy when you find that the spigot you put on the nose is a little too big. You can just open that hole up just a little bit. Get a nice snug fit.
Well, I know these guys aren't exactly works of art, but they are kind of fun, so I hope you'll give it a try. And be sure to check out the videos of my other four-way collaboration partners, Richard Raff and Thomas Law, Thomas Etch, and Sam Angelo. Y'all stay safe. Come on back, you hear?